We're about to dive deep into the chemical symphony that's playing inside you right now, the one creating every single one of your thoughts, feelings, and actions. So, let's get right to it. Okay, picture this. It's late, you're just about to fall asleep, and then bam, a huge crash downstairs. Instantly, you're bolt upright, wide awake, right? Your heart is just hammering in your chest, your mind is racing. What was that? Is someone in the house? That whole rush you're feeling, that jolt of fear, the urge to hide or fight, that is all chemistry. It's your brain flooding your body with powerful chemicals. And that experience, that sudden jolt, really gets to the heart of what we're talking about today. There's this saying in psychology, everything psychological is biological. And it's so true. The moods, the ideas, the impulses that just flash through your mind, they're not some abstract things separate from your body. Nope, they are completely tied to your biology. So if we really want to understand the mind, we've got to start with the chemistry. So where do we even begin with something so complex? Well, like with any big machine, we start with the smallest, most fundamental parts. And for us, that means we're starting with the neuron. Think of it as the basic wiring of your entire nervous system. So neurons, or nerve cells, you've probably heard them called that, are basically our body's little messengers. Your brain is packed with billions of these things, and they use this really cool electrochemical process to zip messages around at lightning speed. And get this, they come in all shapes and sizes. Some are tiny, less than a millimeter long inside your brain, but others can be super long, like running the entire length of your leg. Crazy, right? All right, so every neuron has three main parts. Let's break them down. First up, you've got the soma. That's the cell body. Just think of it as the neuron's command center, or its life support. It's got the nucleus, the DNA, all the important stuff that keeps the cell alive and kicking. It's pretty simple. If the soma dies, the whole neuron is toast. Okay, next up are the dendrites. Look at these things. They're these bushy, branchy extensions. I love this analogy. They're the listeners. Their whole job is to pick up signals and, messages from other cells and pass that info along to the soma. So if the dendrites are the listeners, then you've got to have a talker, right? Well, that's the axon. It's this long, sort of cable-like thing that sends electrical impulses away from the cell body and out to other neurons or muscles. And a lot of them are covered in this fatty layer called the myelin sheath. It's just like the rubber insulation on an electrical wire. It makes the message travel way faster. And this is actually super important. When that sheath breaks down, like it does in multiple sclerosis, the signals get all messed up, and that's what can lead to a loss of muscle control. Okay, so we've got these electrical signals zipping along the neurons, but here's where it gets really, really interesting. How does that signal get from the end of one neuron to the beginning of the next one? They don't actually touch. And that's where the chemical part of our electrochemical system comes into play. This is the magic right here. Let's walk through how this works. So first, the dendrites get a signal. That triggers an electrical impulse, called an action potential, that just shoots down the axon. When that electrical signal gets to the very end of the axon, it reaches this microscopic gap, the synaptic gap. And here's the cool part. Instead of jumping the gap, the neuron releases these tiny chemical messengers called neurotransmitters. They float across that tiny space, connect to the next neuron, and boom, the message is passed on. Now, these little chemical messengers basically come in two flavors. You've got your excitatory ones. Think of them as the hype men. They get the next neuron all revved up and make it more likely to fire. Norepinephrine is a good example. It's all about alertness. Then you've got the inhibitory ones. They're the chill-out crew. They tell the next neuron to calm down, making it less likely to fire. Serotonin is a famous one, involved in mood and sleep. And yeah, this is why you hear so much about low serotonin levels being linked to things like depression. And then some of these neurotransmitters are real multitaskers. They can be excitatory or inhibitory, depending on where they are. Take acetylcholine. It's super important for muscle action and memory. In fact, when it's producing neurons break down, that's a key part of Alzheimer's disease. And of course, there's dopamine. We hear about that one all the time. It's linked to movement, learning, and those awesome feelings of pleasure. You know that little burst of happiness when you eat a piece of chocolate or hear your favorite song? Yep, that's a dopamine hit. But, like anything, it's about balance. Too much dopamine is linked to serious conditions like schizophrenia. All right, so we've got the nervous system with its neurotransmitters acting like these super fast email messages. But that's not the whole story. Our body has a second communication network. It's much slower, but just as powerful. And this one is the endocrine system, which runs on a different kind of messenger, hormones. The best way to think about the difference is this. The nervous system is like sending a text message. It's zippy, it's pretty much instant. The endocrine system, on the other hand, is like sending a letter through snail mail. It takes a lot longer for the message to get there, but when it does, the effects tend to stick around for a while. This is exactly why, after you get really scared or super angry, it can take a few minutes to really calm down. Those hormones are still floating around in your system. And this whole endocrine system works through a bunch of glands scattered around your body. You've got the adrenal glands, which pump out adrenaline for that fight or flight feeling. The pancreas is busy keeping your blood sugar in check. Your thyroid gland handles your metabolism. And of course, the ovaries and testicles are in charge of sex hormones. But among all these glands, there's one that's the boss, the master gland. And that is the pituitary gland. It's tiny, only about the size of a pea, and it's tucked away deep inside the brain. But don't let its size fool you. It is the most influential gland of all. Why? Because it tells all the other glands what to do. It's the conductor of the whole hormonal orchestra. It even releases things like oxytocin. You might have heard of it as the love hormone, which helps with bonding and trust. Okay, so we have two systems, the super fast nervous system and the slower endocrine system. The big question is, how do they work together? Well, they're not separate at all. They're totally intertwined, locked in this constant dynamic feedback loop. Let's bring it all together and go back to that bang in the middle of the night. Here's the whole feedback loop in action. Step 1, your ears pick up the sound, and that sensory info zips to your brain. Step 2, your brain basically hits the panic button and signals the pituitary, the master gland. Step 3, the pituitary then sends an order to your adrenal glands. Step 4, the adrenals obey, flooding your bloodstream with adrenaline. And that's step 5. You feel that huge wave of energy, the pounding heart, everything. But it doesn't stop there. All those physical feelings are fed back to your brain, which eventually figures out, oh, wait, it was just the cat. And then and only then does it send the all-clear signal to calm everything down. You see, it's a perfect loop. Brain to gland to hormone and right back to the brain. And that brings us to a pretty mind-bending final thought. When you think about it, your entire experience of being you, your fears, your love, your deepest thoughts, it's all just an endless chemical conversation between your nervous system and your endocrine system. It's one big biological feedback loop. So that really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If our feelings are just a product of this loop, how much of what we feel and do is really under our own control?